Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So today I have kind of a large book haul. My birthday was in January, so a lot of these are gifts that I got from my friends and then books that I treated myself for my birthday. And after all of my lengthy unhaul videos, I now have tons of more room for books. So let's just get into it. I'm gonna start with all of the books that I got as gifts. So the first book that I have here is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This was gifted to me from Kaylee, and this is actually my Patreon book club book for February. I cannot wait to read this. It is a fantasy romance that I've just been hearing amazing things about this series. It's following this main character who is a slave, and in order to get her freedom, she kills this man who turns out to be the most powerful man in the kingdom. So now she is fleeing and on the run. She has to pledge herself to the Order, which is an organization of magic wielders. And she has to do an apprenticeship with this guy who is very handsome. It just sounds so good, and I've really been craving a great fantasy romance series that I can just binge. Then these next two were sent to me from Jen from the Book Refuge. She sent me Flawless by Elsie Silver, which I have already read. It was one of my favorite romances of last year. This is a romance about a famous bull rider, and it is totally like on paper, it does not sound like my kind of romance. I don't know what kind of magic Elsie Silver put into this, but I was obsessed. And then the other book Jen sent me is Ivan by Sophie Lark, which I have really been wanting to read. I've heard so many amazing things about this book in particular, and I believe that this one is about a woman who is sent to kill Ivan. It says she tried to kill me. She crept into my room with a syringe full of poison. Now she's my prisoner. Oh my god, it just sounds amazing. So thank you so much, Jen, for these. And then one of my amazing patrons, Mel, sent me two books. The first one being Heartless, which is the sequel to Flawless, which I have also already read and I loved. This one is a cowboy nanny romance, and it was even better than the first one. Like, this series is now becoming my favorite romance series. And then Mel also sent me Games with the Orc by Catherine Moon, which is obviously a monster romance that I cannot wait to read. So thank you so much, Mel, for both of those. Then Bree from In Love and Words sent me Marriage for One by Ella Mays, which is a romance that I've been wanting to read forever. And I keep putting it off because I didn't own a copy of it. This is a marriage of convenience romance that I've heard is just like amazing and slow burn. Marriage of convenience is one of my favorite romance tropes, and I feel like it's hard to find them in contemporary romances, so I just cannot wait for this. Then Avery sent me The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan, which I am so excited to read this. I love Nikki Sloan and specifically this series, and this one sounds so good. It's about this guy and girl who are in like rival fraternity and sororities. They like pull pranks on each other that ends up getting them both kicked out, and so now the main character is homeless. So she answers an ad for a role in an adult film, and when she shows up, the person in the film with her is that guy. It just sounds so good, and I love Nikki Sloan's books so much. So thank you, Avery, so much for that one. Then Esty sent me The Mythic Dream, which is a collection of short stories that are all about like classic myths. And this has stories from some of my all-time favorite authors. There's Sean McGuire, Naomi Novik, Rebecca Roanhorse, Amal El Motar, T. Kingfisher, Sarah Gailey, Stephen Graham Jones, like so many amazing authors. Thank you so much, Esty. Then M sent me two books. One of them, I was so excited when I opened this. It is A Dowry of Blood. And you might be thinking, Riley, you already own several copies of A Dowry of Blood. Yes, I do. However, this one is signed. Oh my god, I screamed when I opened that. And then she also sent me By a Thread by Lucy Score, which I know is in one of my boxes. I could not find it. But this one is a romance book, like a rom-com office romance book, so thank you, M, for those. Then Anna sent me Lore Olympus Volume 2, which I'm so excited to read. I've already read all of Lore Olympus on like the webcomic, but something about just like reading it in print is so much more satisfying, and I am just so excited to have this. I love this series so much. So thank you so much, Anna. And then my parents got me Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin, which I cannot wait to read. I feel like I'm probably gonna spend all year reading this just very, very slowly. But the artwork in here is just so stunning. I also realized I feel like this might be not a shocking gift, but like a surprising thing that I might be reading to people. However, if you have not been around my channel since the very beginning, you probably wouldn't know that I love the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I read it all in high school. Like that was all I read in high school before the show ever came out. So I'm a big fan. It's just not something that I ever really talk about. So I'm very, very excited to read this. In case you don't know, this is the book that the House of Dragon TV show is based off of. This book is like a history book about the rise and fall of the Targaryen family and their time on the throne. So like I said, I don't feel like this is the type of book that I would read all at once. I would probably read it in like small chunks. So I just want to take a quick moment here to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Ritual. Ritual is the clinical-backed multivitamin formulated with key high-quality nutrients to help fill common dietary gaps. They are vegan-friendly, non-GMO, gluten-free, major allergen-free, and come without extras and artificial colorants. They are designed to support foundational health with key nutrients to support brain health, bone health, blood building, and antioxidant support. The vitamins that I take are the Essentials for Women, multivitamin 18+. And what I really love about Ritual is that on their website, you can trace all of the ingredients that they put into their vitamins to the source. They are backed by the first visible supply chain of its kind, so you know where the labeled ingredients come from and why they're there. Plus, it's extremely convenient and they're delivered straight to your door. And if you don't love Ritual after 30 days, they will refund you with no questions asked, so it is completely risk-free. And Ritual is offering my followers a 20% off discount of your first month so that you can start a daily ritual that you feel good about by going to ritual.com/RileyMarie20 and using the code RileyMarie20. All right, the next little stack are books that I have already read, so I won't go into too much about them. But the first one is Legends and Lattes. This is an exclusive hardcover copy with sprayed edges that have little swords and coffee cups, and then the naked hardcover has a sword on it. This is from Broken Bookbinding, and it's also signed, so of course I had to get this because you guys know this is one of my favorite books, and it also came with this beautiful print of the cover, which I cannot wait to frame and hang somewhere. Then we have Praise by Sarah Kate, which is the new republication of this with the new cover. This was sent to me from Source Books. I'm gonna be honest, I don't love this cover. I love the original covers, but for those of you who, you know, like discreet covers, this whole series is being reprinted with these new covers. All right, the last category of books that I have here are all just ones that I have purchased myself, ones that I got myself for my birthday, ones that I got for different videos that I'm planning on doing this year, and all of them, except for this first one, are ones that I bought used on Pango Books. I have gotten a couple questions recently of people asking where I find my used books. The #1 place is Pango Books. So the only book that I didn't get there was a new release that I had pre-ordered, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, who is one of my favorite authors. I've read almost all of his books, and this is his newest release. It's about a woman whose parents died. She has to go sell the house, but it's like a really creepy house because her mom had an obsession with puppets and dolls, and it's haunted. So I'm very, very excited to read that. So starting all of the Pango book purchases, the first one that I have here is Lonely Castle in the Mirror, which was recommended to me when I was asking for translated books, and this one sounds so great. It's about these students, and one of them finds this mirror where when you pass through the mirror, it takes you into this magical world with this castle that has hidden rooms that can grant a single wish, but there are rules to be followed, and breaking them will have dire consequences. It just sounds so good, and especially you guys know how much I love Portal fantasy books, which this sounds exactly that, so I cannot wait to read this. Then we have two kind of cozy fantasies that I really wanted to read this year. The first one is A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. This is about a girl who her magic only works on bread. So she works in her aunt's bakery making gingerbread men dance, and then there's a dead body outside the bakery and she has to figure out how to use her magic to save people. I don't know, it sounds so cute. I cannot wait to read that. And then the other cozier fantasy that I got is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which sounds so good. It sounds like my perfect book. Emily Wilde is a professor and a genius scholar, and she's writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore. And so she goes to this town to study the fair folk there. And it says she certainly doesn't have time for another new arrival, her dashing and insufferably handsome academic rival who manages to charm the town folk, muddle Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. I just cannot wait to read this. It sounds like it's gonna be so good. The next book that I got is Loot by Jennifer Thorne. This is a horror book that came out last year that I really wanted to read because I saw that it was compared to Midsummer. On the idyllic island of Loot, every 7th summer, 7 people die. The inhabitants are blessed year after year with good weather, good health, and good fortune, despite the war that rages all around them. So it's only fair that every 7 years on the day of the tithe, the island's gift is honored. It kind of reminds me of one of my favorite YA books, Strange Grace, which was a very similar premise of this village that is blessed with prosperity for 7 years, and then every 7 years they have to sacrifice someone to the devil in the forest in order to get another 7 years of good fortune. I just love that concept, so I'm very excited to read that. I've heard some really good things about it. The next book that I got is a box set of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. I recently read Piranesi, so I was looking for a copy of this book. However, this book is so long and like the actual editions of it are huge, and I was like, there's no way I'm ever gonna read that. But then I found that they make these editions where it's split up into 3 volumes that just seems so much more manageable. Like when I look at it like this, I'm like, oh, I could easily read that. So all I know about this is that it is about the relationship, friendship between these 2 magicians in the 1800s, and I really enjoyed her writing in Piranesi, so I was interested in trying this one out. The next book that I got is Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. So this was immediately like a cover buy. I was very drawn to this cover. It reminds me of the style of a couple other books that I really loved, but it also just sounds really good. So this is about a woman who is a ghost. In the 1800s, this woman has been haunting this village, and then she falls in love with this woman who is alive in the village, and it's just about her being a ghost and falling in love with this woman. It's literary fiction. I'm kind of thinking it's gonna be similar to like women eating, a certain hunger, like those kind of vibes. And I don't know, I really have been loving books like that, so excited to try that. The next one is The Devourers by Indra Das, which is a book that I have been circling around buying or reading for years. I remember a long time ago when this first came out, I kept checking it out from the library intending on reading it, and then I never did. So this is a book that is told like as an oral story that the main character is telling. It says, college professor Alok encounters a mysterious stranger who reveals a part of an extraordinary story. Tantalized by the man's unfinished tale, Alok will do anything to hear its conclusion. So Alok agrees, at the stranger's behest, to transcribe a collection of battered notebooks. From these documents spills a chronicle of a race of people, at once more than human, yet kin to beasts, ruled by instincts and desires, blood deep and ages old, and the lone woman who dares defy them. I don't know, it just sounds so interesting. The next book that I got is The Memory Theater by Karen Tidbeck. This is another portal fantasy book about a world parallel to ours, which exists a mystical realm known only as the Gardens. It's a place where feasts never end, games of croquet have devastating consequences, and teenagers are punished for growing up. I've been on the hunt for more portal fantasy books or just portal books in general, and this was one that was recommended, so I decided to pick it up and try it out. Then I got Out There by Kate Folk, which is a collection of short stories that I believe end up tying together. I've heard this compared to like Black Mirror. They're all stories that focus on weird and eerie forces that leak beneath the surface of ordinary experiences. Short story collections are definitely hit or miss for me, so I'm curious to see what I think of this. And then the last book that I have here is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This is her adult thriller debut about these girls who, when they were younger, they were attacked by a killer in the woods. They survived and escaped and were able to identify him, and were responsible for sending him away to prison. And so they were like the town's heroes, but they were also liars. And now one of the girls wants to tell the truth and reveal what actually happened, and then she goes missing. So I'm very excited to read this. I love Kate Alice Marshall, so I'm excited to see what her writing is like in an adult book versus her YA books, which I have loved. So those were all of the books that I have been gifted and bought recently. I'm really trying to scale back on my book buying this year, obviously because I just moved, you know, had a lot of new expenses lately. So I want to just kind of rein it in a little bit. If you see me getting out of control, somebody call me out. So there probably won't be another book haul for a while. Fingers crossed, hopefully. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you in my next video. And don't forget to check out Ritual and get your 20% off your first month by going to ritual.com/RileyMarie20 and using the code RileyMarie20.